the question here, as the question in Cleveland, is the party really united? And I have no doubt that Bernie Sanders is going to encourage all of his followers to enthusiastically back Hillary Clinton, and the question will be, do they?
Bernie Sanders is no Ted Cruz, and he has actually used the E word and has formally endorsed her. So I think there's going to be a dust up just because we have to have something to talk about. But it's hard to imagine that it's going to be an undivided Democratic Party, especially after they were all watching carefully what happened last week in Cleveland.
I'm actually going to spend a lot of time, I'm interested maybe more because of today's rally, I'm interested in Tim Kaine's speech. Because I think what he does is he brings, based on what I saw today, and what I saw a lot of people saying on Twitter, who started the day being skeptical, and by afternoon they were saying, whoa, that was really good.
My question is what you all see for the future of the Republican Party. I mean, it's clearly splintering. Who do you think is going to rise to the top? Is it even going to be called a Republican Party? What do you see at that level?
It kind of depends on what happens I think it depends on what happens in November. You know, if and you guys can agree or disagree on this because, you know, it's instinct. I suppose if Trump gets beat handily, or whatever it counts for handily in this kind of close polarized environment, then I think it's going to be open season. And I think like 7 or 8 different Republicans who are already seen this week maneuvering around 2020, most notably Ted Cruz, are going to be rushing in to try to say, here's how we should be defining the party or redefining the party or bringing the party back to the way, you know, to its former templates.
I think even if he wins, people will be waiting for him to ruin it. And I think I've just never seen a convention where they nominated a guy and started talking about him being up again in 4 years instead of 8. And that's because they're counting whether he wins or he loses, that he's going to be a weak president. I mean, when you look at the intellectual Republicans, David Brooks, George Will, Michael Gerson, all these columnists who are Republicans to the core, Bill Kristol, but think that Donald Trump has already blown up their party. Some of them have reached the kind of intellectual conclusion that's worth blowing up at this point and starting all over again in 8 years or 4 years or whatever it is. And that's what I think you see happening, them coming to grips with redefining what the party is, or coming to grips with the fact that the party is something else that they thought.
We pay attention to a lot of these moderate Republicans who feel so put off by what they're seeing. The interesting question to me is to what extent these really extreme and ideologically committed core, the Freedom Caucus in Congress, at some point do they think they would do better separating institutionally from the party? I mean, you do have Gary Johnson, the libertarian, who's now polling at 10% and maybe do better than that. I mean,
at 15% he gets on the debate stage.
Right, and I guess what makes it hard to do that is that people see how hard it is to create a third party that's sustainable. And I think it's hard to disentangle themselves from the kind of institutional and financial networks that hold the party together. I mean, an interesting thing to me when I was in Cleveland, I went on the floor on the last day and I spoke to Bob Asher. I don't know if you know the name. He's a Montgomery County.
Asher's Chocolate?
Asher's Chocolates in Montgomery County. He's like a national committee chairman, a real player and a fundraiser, and not a Trump guy at all coming with it. He was for Kasich. He had no appetite for Trump at all. He told me he's come around. He's going to hold a fundraiser in September in this building with the goal of raising $1 million. He's trying to recruit 10 people to be hosts to raise $100,000 each. The way this connects to that subject is it takes money to run elections. Special interests want to find a place to exert influence. People don't raise $100,000 because they like you. It's because they want to be players, and that's the kinds of, and I kind of don't think those conservatives are necessarily going to be readily disassociate themselves from these fundraising networks that fund them. And so I kind of think the party's going to continue to lurch along with these divisions within it. But who the heck knows?